Welcome, everyone. Hospice Nurse Julie here. Hospice Nurse Julie here. Just doing a live for the next, 30 minutes or so. So come best I can. Those of you who are new here, the more we educate, the more we will learn, and the less bring people in. It says my internet's unstable. I don't know. So come on in, whoever is interested. Hospice nursing, death, and change the way we look about it and understand what it means. What it keeps. My connection is on, so everyone knows. Can you hear me now? Do I sound okay now? Can you hear the audio? Thank W. Safford. Where did I go to school? I went to nursing school in Pennsylvania. What led me to hospice nursing is being an ICU nurse. I was an ICU nurse at Johns Hopkins for many years. Welcome, everybody. We have a retired hospice nurse in here. That's amazing. Some people are saying there's no audio. Some people saying there is. So hopefully you can hear me. Can you please tell me why they are pushing the MAID program in Canada? I can't imagine anyone's pushing the MAID program. I think it's the MAID program is medical aid in dying. I have a feeling they probably just want people to know about medical aid in dying in general. Don't forget to hit the like button, someone's saying. Here from the south of France. Wow, I'm going worldwide. That makes me, that's always unbelievable. This camera always seems fuzzy. Yeah, it looks a little better, I guess. How do you know when it's time for hospice? So one, you have to have a terminal diagnosis. So there has to be something terminal going on. A doctor will usually tell you, when in doubt, ask your doctor. When in doubt, check it out. Just being old, if someone is old, doesn't necessarily mean they're appropriate for hospice. There are certain diagnoses that are like more difficult than others to know, like dementia, Parkinson's, MS, things like that. And MS, you may never go on hospice, but it can get bad enough that you could. So I would say talk to your doctor. Or when in doubt, check it out. You can always just look into it. Yes, and caregiving can be the most exhausting thing ever. So you need to work in time for yourself. You need to have something planned in where someone else takes over so you can have a break. If you cannot do that, work with your social worker on hospice so they can help you figure that out. If you're interested in working in hospice, I suggest we always need volunteers. Maybe try volunteering first. If you're already a nurse, I would say just try it. Just try it. Thank you, Stacy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, everybody. Yeah, some people are having audio issues. I would say close it down and try to come back in. Try to come back in. Old Soul says, my husband died, I think it was 3 months ago. I still cry a lot. Yes, 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 yes. Very normal. Grieving does not have an end, I don't think. It changes, but my number one thing for grief is to tell people to get group support, other people who are grieving, other people who have been through what you've been through. What are the most typical signs of the last day? My little sister is deadly ill. Oh man. So the last few hours to a few days of someone who is on hospice, who's, dying a natural death or is just very, very ill, that death is close. They usually are mostly unconscious, meaning they're mostly unconscious. They're not totally lucid. They're not really with us all the time, alert and oriented. They're barely eating and drinking, if they're eating and drinking at all. And then the very, very end, there's changes in breathing, changes in skin color, and you might hear a little, like their breath sounds a little wet. But before that step, before the very, very end, they're just going to be sleeping a lot, not fully with it cognitively, and not eating and drinking. I work for a profit hospice. By the way, there are the majority of hospices, profit or nonprofit, are all not doing horrific things like that article in the New York Times or in the New Yorker stated. Do you find your census increasing closer to the holidays? You know what? I have no idea, to be honest. I have no idea. Thank you, Don. Thank you, everybody who's being here, who is here. Let me know your questions. How do you get over fear of mortality? I think you start with not resisting the fear, realizing you're pretty normal to fear that. I mean, we're all in the same boat, right? It's not like you're alone. It's not like you're alone in your mortality. And I think start there. Start with this idea, like recognizing that you are afraid. You are afraid of the unknown. And then I think through education can help a lot. But it's pretty normal to fear that. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for everyone who's saying thank you. I really appreciate it. For anyone who's new, I'm a hospice nurse, Julie. In case you don't know, I'm a hospice nurse, and I try to educate about death and dying to help decrease people's fear. So Nature Creep says, I've been starting to fear ever since I got cancer. Well, I'll tell you what, Nature Creep. If you are someone who has cancer and is on a YouTube live with a hospice nurse talking about death and dying and expressing your fear already, you're already leaps and bounds in front of most people. A lot of people will not do that. They will not go there. Those that do, like you're doing, tend to have a more peaceful life and a more peaceful death. How do I get my family to accept that I won't be around long after I've accepted, but they won't? You have to meet them where they're at. Let them have their moment, I guess. They are going to feel how they want to feel, but as long as you're open, like you can be as open as you need to be. It's a difficult situation. Also, if you're actually on hospice already, I would ask your social worker to have a family meeting with you and your family and the social worker so you can all talk about it. Thank you. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, death in general is not painful. The disease you're dying from can be, but death is not. Yes, life is fragile. That's for sure. I've definitely learned that too. Your health, you can have your health one day and then not the next. It's very, can be shocking to the system. How is it possible for those in hospice to wait for someone and then pass away? Catherine, good question. I do not know, but we see it a lot. We see it a lot. Oh, thank you, Deborah. And I'm sorry for your loss of your mom. Do hospice volunteers still go through 40 hours of training to know how to respond bedside? I'm not sure how many hours of training they go through, but I know they are always used. So we always need hospice volunteers if anyone's interested. Just Google your hospice companies around you and see what they need. Does the hospice social worker usually have a nursing background? No, they have a social worker background. Oh my gosh, the best way to thank hospice workers, I'll tell you what, I actually feel like it doesn't feel like a thankless job. You can really, 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 I don't know, you can feel the thankfulness from family members all the time. Oh my gosh, someone just gave me money. Wow, thank you. I'm always so surprised when that happens. I like forget that you guys can do that. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much, Bill. Just trying to look through the questions here to see if I can find any. What does a double exhale as a final breath mean? Is it unusual? No, it is not unusual. It doesn't mean anything. So here's a really big, this is a really big thing going out to a bunch of people who have questions about like, I saw my loved one do X, Y, and Z. What does it mean? I saw my loved one do this. What does that mean? During the actively dying phase, which is a few hours to a few days before someone dies, someone's body, picture them not being their consciousness, just the body, just the biological body of that person is doing so many things biologically and chemically to shut down itself. That's what it's doing. The body is shutting down itself. So it's going to be doing a lot of things we're not used to seeing because we're not used to seeing bodies shut down, right? So most of the time, it doesn't mean anything except for the body shutting down. So different types of breath, different movements, different gasps, different facial expressions, different body movements, a release of bodily fluids because all the sphincters are relaxed, so all the muscles are relaxed, just all these different things can happen. So it doesn't mean anything except for the body is shutting down and the body is dying. And I like to say it like that. I like to keep saying the body, the body, the body, not the person, because I think we constantly, and it's very, I get it. It's hard because it's your loved one. But I would really try to, especially during that actively dying phase, I would really try to think of it as a body because the consciousness is pretty shut down by that point. So it's the body, the biological body of that person, which I think is pretty separate from the consciousness of that person. And that bodily stuff is shutting down. So yes, it's normal. We don't know what it means. I would say it means nothing except for the body shutting down. Oh, thank you, Bill. Bill says, I'm here to educate myself and to be better prepared, whether it's me or family. Wishing hospice nurse Julia Merry Christmas. P.S. You need a cat. Bill, no words have ever been truer. I do need a cat. And thank you so much. Hey, Shane, I'm so glad to see you here on YouTube. Any pattern trends you've seen since 2020? Not really, to be honest. Not in hospice anyway. No, the body shutting down does not cause pain or injury. The body shutting down is a very natural part. That's like the greatest thing I wanted everyone to know when I first started educating on the internet is that like what I witnessed and what I've learned from being a hospice nurse versus when I was an ICU nurse is how incredible our human body is. And even though it's dying, it even has built-in mechanisms to help us die well. And as long as we don't mess with that, the body kind of knows what to do. And it's miraculous to me. Even though the body is dying, it still feels miraculous because it shuts down in such a in its own way without us doing anything. Does hospice still teach families that hearing is the last sense to leave? Yeah, we still do think that. We still do think hearing is the last sense to leave. The body shutting down does not seem to be painful. No. And if people, then people always ask, well, how do you know? And we know because we use different scales to measure nonverbal pain to make sure someone's not in pain, even though they can't tell us. And it never shows that someone's usually in pain. If they are, it's because of the disease they're dying from, not because of the process. Yeah, if there's anything I've learned, like through hospice, it's like it makes me feel so much more comforted and so less fearful of dying because our body seems so in tune with it. Even though we really want to fight against it, right? What I have found is when we don't fight against it and our body is just doing this natural biological thing, it seems to be very natural and it gives me so much it gave me so much comfort seeing it over and over again that I thought, I gotta tell people about this. Thank you, everyone who is here. Thank you, everyone who is in this chat talking to each other, telling me thank you, talking about their experience with hospice. All of you guys, thank you so much for being here. Stomach cancer can be tough. Someone just said, yeah, stomach cancer can be a tough one. We usually have to medicate a lot for someone with stomach cancer. Sometimes everyone's different. People surprise me, but a lot of times we do have to. Do their eyes always open while dying? Usually people's eyes are open while they are dying and their mouths are open while they are dying. And that is because it takes muscles to keep our eyes shut and to keep our mouths shut. For us to hold our eyes shut and mouth shut, that takes muscles. At the end of life, those muscles are relaxing. So the eyes are open and the mouth is open. But the consciousness, the brain, the brain part of us is not making our eyes have eye contact. You can tell there's a glaze. The person's not really making eye contact with us, not moving their eyes around. It's like their eyes are open, but nobody's home. Death due to alcoholism was horrendous, even with the brilliant hospice care. It was gut wrenching. Yes, dying from alcoholism, which is end stage, which ends up being end stage liver disease, can have a lot of symptoms. My view on the afterlife, has it changed? It hasn't changed because of hospice. I guess hospice has helped me believe even more in an afterlife. But I've always believed in an afterlife, oddly enough. But definitely working in hospice has made me believe more because of the things I've witnessed and the things that people say who are dying. I mean, the majority of people who are dying that I work with talk to us about the things they're seeing that we can't see, which are dead relatives, dead loved ones, old neighbors, husbands, wives, children who've died, animals who've died, angels. And I don't say this to be like, so we should all believe in an afterlife. I really don't, because I know enough to say I don't know. I know enough to know that we don't know for sure, but it is very it just puts me at ease. Are there signs of someone fighting because they don't want to die? I'm scared when it's my turn. I won't be ready. Oh, Penny Sue. Even you just saying that, let me tell you, even you just saying that makes me know that you probably won't be like that because you're even saying that out loud. That's really hard to say out loud. So the fact that you can say that, and I feel the same way. Listen, I'm over here preaching about being okay with death and dying. And I still know with my personality, because I like control, it might be a little tough for me to let go. But in general, the fact that you're even saying that, I feel like you're already doing good. But yeah, there are signs that people are fighting death. Usually people who have terminal agitation or restlessness. There are several reasons why they have it. So it's not just because they're fighting death, but people who don't want to die are really, they're young and they have children and they're mad and all the things, which I don't blame them. They sometimes will have a lot more terminal agitation. And a lot of times we have to medicate strongly with that. We have to strongly, strongly medicate, unfortunately. What kind of pain is associated with glioblastomas towards the end? Is it normally just huge headaches or major headaches? So major headaches seem to be more in the beginning. Towards the end with glioblastomas, it's tough because the person usually is pretty non-functional and non-verbal. So we usually would treat their pain and their symptoms as we were before, when they could still tell us what was going on. But I would say towards the end, you actually have less symptoms because you are more unconscious. And I know that might sound scary, because you're very conscious right now. But I will say, from what I've witnessed towards the end, when someone's very, closer to death with glioblastomas, they're more like the typical patient dying, which is like just asleep the whole time and not eating and drinking, not much symptoms. So it seems like it's kind of before that time is when they have more symptoms, if that makes sense. How are they dead if they're describing this? It's not afterlife then. Oh, I think I missed what you're talking about, Elizabeth. Maybe someone else is talking maybe you're referencing someone else's statement. I don't know. Oh, thanks, Amy. Hi. You have actually witnessed a lot of death in hospice. How do you get through the rest of your day? You are so knowledgeable, and there are patients and family. But does it ever get to you? Okay, so majority of the time, oddly enough, it does not get to me, because, like I said before, it doesn't feel thankless. It feels like, that feeling you get when you feel like you majorly help someone, like the person is like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like they're very, very thankful. And not that people have to be that way, but and not everyone on hospice is that verbal, but you can see the look on their faces. And that's kind of how I feel almost every day, like almost every family I meet, not because I'm so wonderful, but because they're so kind of lost. And then they meet someone who knows about this particular topic very much. So they feel relieved that finally someone can talk to them about this scary topic. So the way they look and act after I'm done is like, it makes you feel very, very good. You feel very good that you're helping people. So it's really hard to be like, oh, this is sad. It doesn't necessarily feel that way. It feels like you're like, damn, I'm making a difference. This is amazing. But sometimes it does get to me, and it can just when there's a situation that's very, very difficult because they're young, they have a lot of symptoms, they don't have a lot of support, things like that. Those days can be really hard. Or if I cross my own boundaries in the sense of like, I allow families to like call me at night, or I stay after work and work late to like help them, which is really, really nice. But there's something about when I cross my own boundaries, it can really get to me. So I try really hard not to cross boundaries. I try really hard to like work when I work and like cut it off when I'm not, because that really helps me not get too sucked in to where I am really affected. If that helps, if that makes sense. I strongly suggest any nurse on here, any hospice nurse or any nurse really. I feel like it's not really taught to us, and it's actually looked down upon to have like really, really strong boundaries. And you're almost made to feel like you're not that caring because you have such strong boundaries. I would really suggest you don't feed into that, and you don't do, and you have really good boundaries. I feel like I'm a very good hospice nurse, and I still have crazy ass good boundaries. I never give people my personal cell. I never answer my phone after work, after hours. Never, never. And if I do, every once in a while, I pay for it. I always say no if I can't, if I can't do something. Um, if a family's being like, but we only want you, we only want you, and I know that like I won't do it, and that's really really helped me. You can't be the end all be all for everybody, and if you think you can, that's something you got to work on because that's going to cause you to have crazy ass resentments. How can we pre-prepare ourselves for when we are on our deathbed, not knowing from okay, so how can we prepare ourselves if we don't know what we're going to die from, right? Any of us. All of us are going to die. All 288 of us are going to die on here. Sorry, folks. 289. I'm the 89th one. I'm going to die too. And some of us are going to die from freak accidents. Some of us are going to die when we're 90. Some of us are going to die from a certain disease, right? I know this is a little rough, right? I'm not trying to make this like this. Well, no, I think it's important. So my whole point is how do we prepare for that in general? Like this, people who are all here, we're all openly talking about it, and you're listening to me and you're writing in the comments and you're talking to each other and you're willing to listen and learn and you're here in the first place. That's one way to prepare. Education. If that's all you do, that's great. Another thing, know what you want, right? Like my family knows, like I want The Office playing in the background. If I'm unconscious laying in my bed dying, I want The Office playing. I would prepare financially if you can, best you can. Try to put money aside for end of life care. I know that's not doable for everybody, but if you can, I would plan for that stuff because it's hard to have help and you're going to need help. So I'd plan that way. As time goes on, like right now, my end of life advanced directives is full code, meaning I want CPR if my heart stopped. I'd want to be on machines because I'm young and healthy. As time goes on, if I become not young or not healthy, I would change that. But make sure you speak openly to your family about what you would want if something awful would happen where you were brain dead and couldn't eat and couldn't talk and couldn't do this, couldn't do that. You tell your family what you'd want now. And they might say to you, God, why are you talking about this? Like my family does. But they're going to remember that conversation if that shit ever happens. And then the burden will not be on them to make that choice. They already know what you want. So have discussions with your family. And also, okay, last thing. Financially, I would start, figuring out who would be in charge of your finances if anything were to happen. I know it seems like maybe you're too young, but you're never too young. Like I know my sister is my beneficiary. And if you actually own houses and stuff and you have estates and stuff, which I don't, but if you do, definitely get that. You need to talk to someone in financially to get that stuff figured out before you die. Know if you want to be buried. Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have a green burial? Do you want to have an open casket? Do you all of those things, write them down somewhere and tell someone where the information is. Yes, Leslie, about the boundaries. Yes. What's a green burial? That's so funny. I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, so I don't want to screw it up, but I think it's when you like bury your body without a casket and you just bury yourself in the ground. I think. I would love a green burial. I would love a green burial and then a tree to be planted over me so I can be the tree. Yes, having a trust will save your loved ones a lot of headache. It sure will. Yes. Writing down your passwords to your phone, to your bank statements, to your bank accounts, to all the things. That will also save your family a lot of headache. Yes. Can you speak on violent behavior at the end of life? So I would say violent behavior at the end of life comes from, like I said, like I've talked about before, terminal agitation or restlessness. Certain certain diseases cause more agitated behavior. Dementia can, Parkinson's can, any kind of brain like glioblastoma, sometimes maybe not violent behavior, but they can act different. Anything metastatic to the liver, because liver, the ammonia level builds up in your brain, and then you get a little goofy and weird acting, and that can cause someone to act different. A lot of times, too, besides diagnosis, a lot of times I say people die how they lived. If you have someone who is emotionally immature or mentally ill, suffered from mental illness all their life, they're not suddenly going to be this well balanced person at the end of life. If anything, they're going to be worse at the end of life because they may not feel well. They may not be reacting to medications well. It just depends. So, some people still will not have that great of deaths, meaning like they're not going to be like this super, super peaceful, easygoing people because they never were like that in life, right? So it can be difficult. Personality comes into play at the end of life. That's for sure. So people with glioblastoma can act differently because it just depends on where the tumor is and stuff too, Shane. Just because they may lose functional ability or ability to verbalize things as well, or to understand things. So not everybody, truly, I'm not just saying that, not everybody, but sometimes. I mean, anything dealing with the brain, if there's a tumor there, can mess things up. So, because your brain does a lot of stuff, right? It just depends. Oh, Joy Williams says there's a book out there by Amy Devine, that helps walk you through step by step everything you're talking about, passwords, last wishes, etc. That's amazing. Do you think that being a volunteer in hospice would not only help others, but help us accept and prepare for our own death? Yes. Yes, it very well could. Shane, I am so glad that you're here with us. I would also talk to your doctor, Shane. I don't know if they're, I'm sure I hope they're good, but I would ask them specifically what to expect. Like, if they're the ones dealing with specifically your brain, right? And the tumor that you're dealing with, and they see this day in and day out too, I would specifically, if you haven't already, talk to your doctor about different things that you might expect, and tell them you want to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, or prepare for the rest, as Dr. Sammy Winemaker says. If you don't follow her already, she's awesome. She's on Instagram and TikTok, Dr. Sammy Winemaker, and see what they have to say, because they'll know more about your tumor specifically than anyone else will. Oh, they don't. Your doctors don't deal with very many glioblastoma patients? I wonder why. Why are they dealing with you then? Are you on hospice already? MD Anderson for clinical trials. I see. In a second surgery. Yeah. My uncle recently passed away from cancer. He had a hospice in his home, but was told the hospice nurses could only give him PO pain meds. Is that state specific? It might be state specific and hospice agency specific. I don't mean to talk bad about your agency because I don't know the specifics, but we definitely can do more than just PO medicine. So I don't know about that. I don't know. My husband has glioblastoma and had chemo and radiation in 2017. He told me God healed him. Then he got vascular dementia. And I think that's why he's dying, not from the cancer. Is that possible? Pammy, you'd have to look at scans and stuff. I have no idea. I mean, I don't want to say God didn't heal him. I don't want to say that. I don't know. But usually you do die from glioblastomas. So I don't know. I don't know. I would get scans and stuff to actually see what's going on with the brain, if there's a tumor there or not. Maybe you already did and there isn't one. So I don't know. Thanks, Matrix, for answering that. Okay, you guys, it is 5:16. It's been 37 minutes. Thank you so much for all being here. I'm going to put this on my page so people can rewatch it. If I didn't answer your question, I'm not sure if you've, I have a bunch of videos on YouTube. You can go check them out. I got tons and tons of videos there, tons on TikTok, tons on Instagram, tons on Facebook. So you can find me any of those places and look at videos there. I do have a book coming out, you guys. I don't know if I told you. I have a book coming out, but not for a while. I just got a book deal. I just started getting all of that wrapped up. I'm super excited. So it's going to be a while because I heard writing a book and publishing it and all the things is going to take a good old time. But it will be out. And of course, I'll keep you guys posted. So there will be a book by me out. So pretty exciting. Just going to take a while. So I'll keep you guys posted, but I just want to let everybody know. I know it's like my wildest dreams. So thank you so much for everyone who's even interested in any of this. I'm just so happy there are people out there that want to learn. All right. Thank you, guys. Oh, Angela, thank you for being from France and coming to see us. And Shane, I'm just so glad you're here. Thanks everybody for being here. And I'll go on next week sometime too. Okay. Talk to you guys later. Bye.